So now we've got the one speaker that we just had to invite back after last year's leadership forum. The founder and editor of EndUserSharePoint.com, the senior storyteller himself. Please give it up for Mark Miller.
There's supposed to be some audio. You got some audio? It really is cool, the intro here. You just oh, that's too bad. All right. For those of you that have seen Breaking Bad, you get it. For those who haven't and don't know me, you might want to tread lightly at this point. And anybody that just giggled, got it. How many people have not seen Breaking Bad? That's what I thought. I did this in Chicago last month, and half the audience didn't know about Breaking. They knew everybody knows Breaking Bad, but they haven't seen it. So every single slide in this presentation is a spoiler. That's good. You know, when John Anderson called me and said, "Would you like to present again at the forum?" I said, "Oh, hell yeah, I know exactly what I want to do." Because it was the week before the final episode, right? So what I did is I put together a presentation here that actually looks at the anatomy of a SharePoint project and why it goes bad. And each of the characters represents somebody that you will recognize in your company as part of this project team. Now there's a microphone floating around. This is an interactive presentation. It's going to go pretty quick. But what I'm going to want to do is talk to you about, do you recognize this character in your company? And the way it's laid out is this. There is a specific lifespan for every character within Breaking Bad. And if you look at it closely, it aligns with every character that is part of your SharePoint project, or any project as the case may be. So what we want to do is follow this to see when does a character come into a project and why, and then how does it relate to the project. As I was thinking about this, for those of you that haven't seen it before, Walter White is the guy, right? He is a chemistry teacher who gets diagnosed with cancer, and he breaks bad. I mean, he breaks the mold for bad by going and creating a meth lab that becomes a international distribution unit, okay? So when we think of this, and I started thinking about Walt, I said, what is Walt's position within SharePoint? And it turns out that Walt is the SharePoint project itself. When you think about a bad SharePoint project, he starts in the green, in the crisis program. When you look at a SharePoint project, a lot of times what's happening is there's some kind of crisis. And so management or IT or somebody comes up and says, we need SharePoint to help solve this crisis, with all good intentions. And that's where Walt started. He started with all good intentions right here, and then he goes across, and he's got the implementation going, then he's got cooperation, and then he's overextended himself, then he has a complete meltdown. Sounds like a typical SharePoint project to me. I don't know about you. That was one of the best jokes of the whole presentation. Thank you. Now, so when you look at Walt and you look at him, he's got his partner Jesse here. When you think of Jesse, Jesse's kind of sad, right? Because this is a good kid. This is a guy that really wants to do good. This is your site manager. Somebody that says, you know, I've got something that I can do, and then the project itself, Walt in this case, the project itself is what makes Jesse turn bad. And when you look at Jesse when he first starts out, Jesse doesn't start out in the green, does he? He starts out in the blue, because he's already dealing by the time that you met him. So Jesse knows a little bit about something here, and he gradually turns into the red. He goes into the bad through the overextension and the complete collapse. But the thing about Jesse is he is aware all along the way of what's happening, but can't extricate himself from the situation. Anybody recognize somebody like that? Who laughed? I need a mic. Can I get a microphone over here? You raise your hand. You recognize somebody like that? Can you talk about that? You don't have to name names, but you have to name the company and the position. Who's your Jesse? I mean, you don't have to name it. You got a Jesse in your project or your company?
A director, definitely, who has completely removed themselves from the project and providing any support or resources for the project.
That's
Is that
okay.
like a Jesse? Right?
That's Jesse.
Okay.
That's Jesse. Good. But he's going to get dragged back in. All right? Good, good, good. I'm going to go through these pretty quick because there's quite a few characters for a half hour. All right. Well, we've got a Skylar here. This is somebody that is completely unaware of what's going on when this whole project starts out. It's like completely oblivious to the situation, ignores the situation until it gets to the point where it directly affects her. So when you look at this, I don't really take Skylar all the way into the red, would you? Is Skylar really the one that brings this whole thing down? I don't think so, but she is definitely a main character in this thing. Okay, let me take a breath here. For those of you that haven't seen the show, how many are completely lost at this point? Couple people, okay, all right. So each of these characters in Breaking Bad, for the 3 people that raised their hand here, each of these characters in Breaking Bad, in this point, the ones I've shown you are the main characters, and they begin at the very, very beginning of the show or at the beginning of the project, and they go all the way through to the end. That's why I'm showing you the main character development. With Skylar now, when I think of Skylar, I think a lot about business development. Why am I thinking business development with Skylar? Now people are afraid to speak up because they know I'm going to... What? What's that? She helped run the business. She bought the car wash. She finally got into the project and said, well, if you're going to do it right. Little did she know that she's going to end up with $80 million in cash in a warehouse somewhere, right? So the thing about her is Skylar wasn't part of the crisis plan or the implementation. At the cooperation stage, she just started to get in, and then she goes. Now, the next one that's the interesting is this guy. Right? This is the guy, when you look at him, he is absolutely bad as soon as you see him the first time. How many people have some SharePoint people or some project people like this where you know as soon as they come in, oh man, this is not going to turn out good? I see you laughing again. You got problems. All right. So what we've got here is somebody, Gustav, who has his own arrangement outside of Walt's meth labs. And so he and Walt start the cooperation phase together. They start working together. But never is Gus, does he ever change characters. He's just solid bad from the beginning. And I'd like to know if somebody has one of those on their project. Anybody have a personality on their project? Oh, come on. Thank you.
So I haven't seen the show, but this kind of person sounds like the kind of person that goes technology first and has no idea what the business requirements are, but they've already chosen the technology and they're going to go that route.
Excellent. Please, she's got one of those. All right. Good. You know, there's a quiz after this, so you might want to take some notes. Okay, good, good, good. So Gus is there. I like Mike. Anybody else like Mike? Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? This is a hired hitman assassin, and he gets our sympathy vote. Why is that? Why is it? He keeps things operating. This is the guy who knows the stuff. He knows how it works. He's been here 100 times before, and he takes no prisoners. I like Mike because he only got upset once. What? He got upset one time. What time was that? He put a gun to Lydia's head, remember? She put a hit on me. Mike's taking it personally now. He's hit over 100 people, and yet when somebody does it to him, now it's personal. It's not business anymore, it's personal. So when you look at Mike, I had trouble putting him into the red. I wanted to, but in essence, Mike is a solid blue. That's the meth all the way across. He's just going to be the guy that's going to keep things running because he knows his stuff. How many of you guys have an old-timer on the team that knows everything about it and can answer all your questions on it? Amanda, you got somebody? You saying yes?
The IRC.
Yeah, let's see what we got here.
They were the people that implemented SharePoint in 2003 and gave it up, and they continue to answer questions, and they continue to know what's going on, and they continue to keep it operating.
Wow, 2003. That's Mike. It's the idea that you have somebody on your team that knows the entire game. It's an integral part of what you're doing, and Mike is an integral part of this whole thing here. Next thing you got, Saul has his own program now. Do you realize that? The Saul Goodman show is actually coming out, and it's going to be pre-Breaking Bad. So they're going to show how Saul got in. And this is one of my favorite quotes from the whole show. It's Jesse talking to Walt about they need a lawyer, and he says, Walt, you don't want a criminal lawyer. You want a criminal lawyer. And it set the whole stage for Sal as we come in. Now, Sal's an interesting character because honestly, he doesn't touch anything, does he? He's always the stand-back guy, but he's the guy, he's the machine that's making everything work, even though he's not touching it in any way. Anybody got one of those? Might be called a sponsor in other languages, right? So when we're thinking about Saul, this is the go-to guy when you've got a problem. He doesn't necessarily know how to solve your problem, but he knows somebody that does. You got one of those? Everybody should have one of those. You need that connector on your team so that when it's time to get to somebody that can make a difference, you got direct contact. Sal is essential. I never liked Hank. You did? Why did you like Hank? Where's my mic? Why did you like Hank? Who said that? Good, please.
Hank was funny. He lightened up everything. It would be a bad situation, and he could find something funny about it.
So you can use Hank as comic relief. Mm-hmm. But the problem with me is Hank was a very, very dark character underneath all of it. And what you saw for the public persona was nothing but a mask. It was a fake. Hank was a fake as far as I was concerned. And that's shown because he tries to hide his fear from everybody. He treats his wife like crap. He thinks he knows everything. And underneath it all, he's insecure. And worried about that insecurity. How many people have a project lead or somebody higher up that you know is insecure? You can't raise your hand here. Just kind of nod to yourself and don't look at the guy across the table from you. Okay, good. So Hank comes in at the beginning, but he does not make it to the end of the project, does he? Big time, right? So when you're looking at Hank, I had him in the green, but I was fighting myself on that because is he really starting the good? Is he part of the good? I honestly don't think so. I honestly don't think so. But as he goes into it, he becomes part of Walt's world. He becomes part of that project that's starting to implode upon itself. And Hank pays the ultimate price for that. A lot of people that deal with the SharePoint project as an owner pay the ultimate price. You might look at Hank that way. Not a guy I don't like. What is this guy doing on your project? All he wants to know is what he's having for breakfast. Oh, come on, you know that, right? Hey, what? He's our intern, I'm hearing up here at the front. You mean he knows absolutely nothing, but he's there with a smile on his face every morning willing to help, right? You know, I could never develop any sympathy for this guy because once the bullets started to fly, figuratively and literally, it wasn't like he was a solution to anything. He was just a constant complainer and whiner. The world happened to him, and he had no control over it, according to himself. So when I look at this from the beginning, does he stay in the green? Yes, so what? It's milquetoast green as far as I'm concerned. Does he become involved? Does he make a statement? Not really. Not really. And to me, that's annoying. I'd rather have somebody fighting me and arguing with me with legitimate points than somebody like this on my team. This adds no value to the team at all. Where does Marie fit into all this? Marie is Hank's wife, by the way. Hank was the DEA agent, the insecure DEA agent. And Marie was there. You know, she is one of those people that, again, like Skylar, is oblivious halfway through the project, not realizing what they've gotten themselves into, what they are aligned with. And she doesn't go into the bad. That's an interesting thing about Marie. Even though she's a simple kleptomaniac, remember that one where she got caught for that? She's got simple things that are wrong with her, but in general, Marie is a good person, and she does not get sucked into Walt's world. It's really interesting. Anybody that Walt had any kind of contact with for any intensity, they got sucked into his orbit. And they started playing his game. Marie refused to do that. Is this your person who's refusing to use SharePoint? I don't know. But it's somebody that stands back and looks objectively and says, I don't want to be part of this. Lydia. Lydia's an interesting one. She came in really, really late in the project, but she came in with both barrels loaded and ready to play. But look what happens when you come in late in the project. You get terminated from the project really quick. You watch the show a lot. You know what I'm talking about. So what happens is Lydia comes in, and you can't say that she is the instigator of the collapse, but she's definitely part of the collapse that's happening at the end. This thing is coming down. Lydia steps in and says, look, I'm going to save this thing. We're going international with it. I'm supplying the resources that it's going to take to do it. You just get me the stuff. As a side note, what do you think about the way Lydia got taken out? You liked it? You liked it, all right. There's a big spoiler there that I won't put in for you guys that haven't seen, because I'm sure everybody after seeing this presentation is going to go binge watch Breaking Bad. All right. And then we've got Todd. Another, at first, milquetoast character. Somebody that doesn't have a lot of opinion, just slouches around. But this guy turns bad really, really fast. This is somebody that comes into the project, they've got a little bit of knowledge, they're helping you out, but what they're helping you with is not the good stuff, it's the bad stuff that's going to bring you down. Todd was an interesting one because I couldn't get it out of my mind that this was the guy that played on Friday nights football. Remember Friday Night Lights? Yeah, this is the same guy, and I was arguing in my head with the character when I was watching this guy. How could this guy go from Texas to do this? But all right, and then we've got Gail, and everybody goes, "Oh, Gail, oh." Gail is the guy that comes in and he knows it. He knows his stuff. He knows his chemistry, and he looks up to Walt as a god of creation of chemistry. This guy doesn't care about SharePoint. He really doesn't care about making meth. He cares about doing the best job that he can, and he's got the mental resources to do it. But the problem is mental resources didn't take you too far in this show or on this project, because what you got here is Gail started with ultimate cooperation here, and then the politics is what got him killed. The politics took him out. And if you think about the politics of implementing something as large as SharePoint and trying to change the corporate culture, this is what happens to a lot of people. It's very, very hard if you don't implement incremental change management. When you just try to go in and do it, it's a short lifespan when it comes to something like that. Jack, where in the world did Jack come from? Jack is the ultimate bad. I actually see him worse than Gus in a way. In this case, this guy has no inner compass whatsoever. There's nothing morally justifiable about this guy. So this is somebody that comes in near the beginning of the collapse and says, you know what? I'm all in for me. And so either they're trying to take over what's going on, they're just trying to cover themselves and get what they want out of the project, not what's best for the project. These guys. And I'll say this for the people that watched the last episode, the most dangerous hired assassins in North America, right? Loved it, loved it. So what we got is, and I got this one up here for John Anderson because John and I were laughing about the idea of what does your ultimate end user look like? And it really is people that are just going along for the ride. The people that you're dealing with that are using SharePoint, they don't care that it's SharePoint. And these guys didn't care that it was math. They just cared that they had something to do, they had money in their pocket, and they got what they needed. People that you want to use SharePoint don't care about SharePoint. They care about the business solutions that you're going to solve for them on the spot to make their job easier. And that's the big takeaway with these guys. If you can make my job simple and easy, I don't care what it is you're using. In this case, it happens to be SharePoint. That's why you're in the room. But you don't talk about SharePoint. You talk about the solutions that are being provided. So there's your SharePoint team there. Do you recognize some of the characters here as part of your SharePoint project or any project? And we use SharePoint because that's what we're talking about today. But the idea that I wanted to get across here was that there are specific characters in every SharePoint project. And if you recognize those characters when they make their entrance onto the stage, then you know who you're dealing with and how to deal with them. And it seemed to me that Breaking Bad was a great way to get the cultural meme that was going around the TV show and integrate it with SharePoint, because a lot of people would understand what I'm talking about. All right? Thank you for your time. I hope you got something out of that. We're going to have a panel discussion afterwards, I think, and if you want to ask questions about this, we can get to that on that. All right? Thank you. Thank you.